Hey, what's up?
Hello.
How
Hey,
are you guys?
everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. We have an interesting one for you today. We have a masterclass around the transition to ground covers optimized observability stack and what does this mean with a variety of starting points. But before we get to that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce the team here. We have Yechezkel, our co-founder and CTO,
We can go
Noam,
with
our
chess. I think it will be easier for all of us.
wonderful. Noam, our founding engineer and infra extraordinaire, and myself, or head of product here at groundcover. A little bit about what we're going to do over the next half hour or so. I'd like to start by just kind of giving you guys a little bit of context around groundcover, what it is we do, where we are in our journey, and kind of hear it from Chezi to begin with around what kind of made him embarked on this journey and made him want to go on this crazy ride so far and how it's been. And then from there, I'm going to give you guys a really brief demo of ground cover, 5 minutes or so, just to get context of all of the amazing features we have and how we look at observability end to end. And then we're going to hand it over to Noam, and he's going to show you how painless a transition could be from a legacy APM solution over to ground cover. And on that note, I think we could just go ahead and start off. One or two comments here. One, I'm pasting a Calendly invite for myself. I always love to hear from our customers and people of interest. Love to talk product with you guys. Feel free to put in a half an hour and we'll chat a little bit more and get into the bits and bytes of how your observability stack looks. In addition to that, feel free to ask questions throughout the entire session. We'll try to work it in, and whatever we haven't reviewed by the time we get to at the end, we will go and make sure to cover, and we'll also add to our support channel if there's anything that we think the wider audience would look to benefit from. So on that note, let's go ahead and kick it off. So a little bit about ground cover here. Started in 2021, variety of different customers, 25 million raised, over 1,400 users throughout our life cycle. And Chezi, obviously we're at the point now where there's quite a bit of value that's being given to our customers, where we're seeing people really kind of building their entire observability solution on top of ground cover. But could you tell me a little bit about kind of the idea when it was just a concept and how it came to be?
Yeah, sure. So I think a lot of the founding team in ground cover basically spent the last 10 years instrumenting their own production load, talking about microservices. Everybody been through this stage where you get like 2 or 3 or 5 and then 20 or 30 or 50 microservices, and then everything is getting out of control. And so basically we basically spent the 10 years instrumenting application, fighting dark places where we can reach for any piece of information. And I think what kind of tipped the whole thing, and me and Shachar kind of kickstarted ground cover, and Noam which is you're gonna hear more next in the session, who's one of the first employees. We all came together and thought this kind of unstoppable pricing going up, and we kind of found ourselves removing data that we worked so hard to instrument and to fetch. And I think that was a breaking point for us. We thought must be another way, must be something smarter we can do, because chasing ourselves is not effective. And then we kind of kickstarted ground cover. And today is like a full-on platform. It's actually unbelievable. It's been only 2 years, so very very excited and very excited session today, because we're gonna see some of the amazing features we achieve with eBPF, which I think you're all gonna like.
Amazing. Wonderful. So as Hezi said, groundcover really is an end-to-end solution. We cover all aspects of observability, whether it's metrics, traces, logs. We're Kubernetes first in everything we do. We allow you to go and to see all of the native entities and to be able to speak in terms of Kubernetes, but we also cover your entire stack, regardless of what it is and how it looks. Everything from a data perspective is stored on the customer side, which allows us to, one, reduce costs quite a bit because we don't have any of that data transfer cost associated with it. Two, we're able to go and to use our eBPF solution, which is able to go and to essentially listen to all of the communications.
Or just
yes.
I'm getting messages about some people can't hear you, or I just want to say, can you guys please comment if you can hear or if everything, like I can hear you perfectly and I can see you. Like just let's Noam, can you see and hear all? Okay. Yes. Okay. So maybe we can. I see some people. Yeah. Okay. So everything is fine. Okay.
Looks good. False alarm.
False alarm, sorry.
There needs to be one throughout the webinar, but it's great to see all of you guys and to hear that everything's coming through well. So like I was saying, eBPF essentially allows you to see everything that's happening across your entire cluster without any effort from your side. And Noam's going to dig much deeper into this a little bit. As I said before, absolutely all data sources are covered. We're able to go and to adapt to your stack, and we're able to do that with minimal effort, as you're going to see in a moment. I'm going to jump right into a demo because I think it speaks for itself and allows us to go and to really show you what groundcover could do. Bear with me one moment while I share my screen.
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Wonderful. So I logged into groundcover here with my account, and the first thing I'm able to do is essentially see all of the different workloads that are within the system. We're able to go and see our golden signals around these, whether that's our throughput from a request perspective, the percentage of errors, our P95. We could go and sort by all of these to understand where we want to spend our efforts and where we want to go and try to find whatever problem or investigation that we're trying to undergo. Like I said before, we're Kubernetes first, so we're able to go and to really see all of our different entities over here. You could go and essentially see any specific pod over here. You could go and see which containers and what their states are, the amount of consumption from a CPU and memory perspective, and also if there are any Kubernetes events associated with it, we're able to collate it around time and to show this in a way that allows you to go and to see really clearly what happens. Over here, for example, you have a large amount of restarts associated with a backoff restart failed container warning that's associated with this pod is something you want to go and look at. We have all of our different entities over here, but I'm not going to spend time digging into them. After that, we're able to go and really see our entire setup here by having all of the different services and the communication between them. Each of these will have a number of different metrics associated with them that I could go and dig into and look at. I could go and filter down to certain states, such as those where I have errors, or go and filter around protocols. Everything is around showing you what you need to know as quickly and as easily as possible. Here within the issue tab, we're able to really just go and to show you all of the things that we flag as potential problems for you based on protocols that we know to be problematic, based on issues that we've seen. And what's really cool here as well is we're able to aggregate that. So you see 1,400 MySQL clients parser issues around insert into, as opposed to seeing 1,400 different traces. You're able to go and actually aggregate this, even if the parameters within it are ones that are vary between the different SQL statements themselves. I could go and click on that, see all of our different traces over here. And I could go and actually see both the request as well as the response that was returned. These are for all of the different protocols. We'll be able to go and show it over here, context around where this ran out of. You could go and integrate it with Git as well and see the actual commits associated with it, get logs that are correlated around the time with it, filter for those where you have errors, and get context around where this is run. So you could connect between a problem, the associated details with it from a trace point of view, and then zoom out and get the context around the number of requests, the latency, try to go and connect between all of these different areas. If you have Kubernetes issues over here, go and show it. Just basically be able to layer and tell the story. We could go and see all of our different traces and filter over here. We could also go and see APIs, and for each API's filter or sort according to our golden signals as well. And that allows us to really understand where to go and invest our time. Over here, we have all of our different logs. It is a full end-to-end logging solution that's able to handle whatever scale you're able to create. One that we are very, very proud of. We have all of our Kubernetes events over here, as well as a full dashboard and alert solution that Noam is going to go and dig into quite a bit. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Noam, and he is going to show us how a transition and migration could work in just a few simple steps using groundcover.
Awesome. Thank you, Or. Cool. So I'll now share my screen. Just a moment.
Wonderful. While Noam's doing that, I'll go ahead and reiterate, feel free to ask questions throughout. We'll try to tackle them as they come up, and whatever we don't get to throughout the demo itself, we will go and cover at the end.
Cool. My screen is ready. Can everybody see my screen, Or?
Yep.
Cool, nice. So the rationale behind our observability strategy that we suggest here in groundcover is to build layers. At the base layer, groundcover provides you with a completely application agnostic eBPF traces, metrics, and logs. Thanks to eBPF, we can create all the traces and the metrics and the logs that you've just seen that are demonstrated without any reliance on your applications whatsoever. However, other than eBPF generated data that keeps you on track with observing your applications, there are probably instrumentation efforts you have already put in place in your application, whether it's OpenTelemetry or Datadog, and you are planning on transitioning to a system that will be more holistic, or you will want to add this base layer of eBPF to make sure your observability stack is robust as can be. So what we did here in groundcover is we allowed the system and automatically added capabilities that automatically identifies and ingest your Datadog and OpenTelemetry traces and show you in a unified screen. So if, for example, you are now coming from a Datadog-based observability stack or an OpenTelemetry one, once you move to groundcover, you will not just get a new level of visibility thanks to eBPF. You will also be able to see the traces that you generated with instrumentation from your previous observability stack. In this case, you can see that I have the source filter in the traces screen that can, by filtering, for example, the Datadog source, I can see all the traces generated by the Datadog auto instrumentor. If I will mark OpenTelemetry, you will be able to see all the traces that were generated thanks to OpenTelemetry instrumentation SDK. With this, you're able to move to use groundcover with as minimal effort as possibly can be. We take care of the backend stack, whether it's the metrics data storage and the logs and traces data stores. By the way, for the first, we use Victoria Metrics, which is one of the most performant Prometheus data stores out there, and ClickHouse, which is leading the benchmarks for data processing for logs and traces and such scenarios. Cool. So this is how the data you generated previously using Datadog or OpenTelemetry integrates into the groundcover native experience. By the way, I just want to mention the Datadog integration you see in the screen was not relying on changing the APM URL whatsoever. Using eBPF, we fetch it with 0 configuration changes to your existing Datadog stack. Awesome. So now I'll move to the dashboards and alert screen. The dashboard and alert screen are basically an embedded Grafana experience managed for you by groundcover that we supply as part of our solution. With the dashboards, with the embedded Grafana, you are able not just to use groundcover data, but also the OpenTelemetry and Datadog data fetched from your previous observability stack, and build your own custom dashboards. So if, for example, you had custom dashboards relying in your existing Grafana, and you invested hard in your previous observability stack in building dashboards surrounding, let's say, some business level metrics, you are able to just import them to groundcover dashboards, to our managed Grafana, and basically continue the same experience as you used to in groundcover in the one system that is unified, and all of its backend is taken care of for you. So, for example, let's take the example of the traces screen we saw earlier. If I will go to the distributed tracing dashboard, here you will be able to see all the distributed traces from different applications, whether it's the OpenTelemetry generated distributed traces, or this example is Datadog data. It's a Datadog distributed traces. And if I'll choose another workload, you'll be able to see the distributed tracing scheme generated from OpenTelemetry. So by using groundcover, you're able to do a migration with 0 configuration changes, only left to import your existing dashboards to Grafana and continue your and knowing that you have an observability stack that not just lets you continue where you're left with your older generation observability stack, but have a base layer of eBPF capabilities that will always be on top of all the application changes in your cluster.
I must say, Noam, when you just first came to me and said, let's do it, because we obviously speak to a lot of our customers, and a lot of them are having trouble with migration from, they're already invested in Datadog, or they already built their own stack with using OTel or New Relic or whatever. And when you came with this idea of using eBPF, as we are already leveraging it, to automatically ingest all this data with basically what we call zero integration or zero friction. I first thought you are crazy, but you and Aviv kind of proved me wrong, and to see it in action, that's really amazing. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I just want to touch on one thing as well, because this was a bit mind-blowing to me when I first kind of realized what this means. It essentially means anything instrumented, we will see and be able to provide the full value around it, whether that's distributed tracing or kind of having and storing all of those relevant calls. Anything not instrumented will be able to augment with our eBPF solution that is the kind of #1 in market, in our opinion. And we could do all of that without having you go and sample anything, looking at all of your data, not having to have to trade off between what do you cover versus what your cost is at a reduced cost of 80 to 90% versus legacy APM solutions, because of the cutting edge way that we've decided to go and build our application.
Yeah. So I just want to say, Hezi, I think that when I we offered the idea here in the R&D at the first time, I think we were more at the stage that we thought it will be really cool to have it, but we didn't know if we can actually pull it through. But it was too cool not to pull it through. So I'm really glad we were able to pull this out, and yeah, I think it's It's a game changer in terms of how easy it is to incorporate new observability tools into your cluster. The last thing I want to mention here is that we talked about traces, but in previous webinars, we also mentioned that groundcover can also fetch and scrape your custom metrics, and we fetch them in automatically by opting in single custom metrics enabled through flag in our CLI or Helm chart. And this allows you to automatically have all your custom metrics ingested into the groundcover Victoria metrics stateful set that is deployed as part of the installation. And in my shared screen, you can see a community-built cube state metrics dashboard that we just imported into groundcover after enabling the cube state metrics module. That's, by the way, also embedded within the groundcover chart. And it just worked out of the box because the metrics were automatically scraped and ingested into the groundcover Victoria metrics database. Last thing to mention, the Victoria metrics data store that is used by groundcover is what we call the polyglot database. That means that if you use Influx or Graphite or Datadog for metrics, you can just throw it at our Victoria metrics, and it will be available through industry standard PromQL interface, so you can build any dashboard you would like. That's it.
Thanks a lot, Noam, and amazing show of just how easy it is to go and to implement groundcover. I kind of open it up to everyone here. If you haven't tried it already, please give it a try. We're very happy to take any questions and to help you guys in our support channel via Slack. The installation is a single line of a shell script to essentially go and run, about 90 seconds end to end. Try it out, let us know. Any questions from the audience here? Anyone want to kind of go and challenge Noam or anything, or get his opinion?
Meanwhile, when we're fetching and gathering some questions, I have one question. So Noam and me are engineers who's building observability platform, which is basically the dream for every engineer, right? But I kind of want to ask you, like, what makes you fall in love in this category, in this domain, and what motivates you?
Absolutely. I think to me, being a data geek at heart, having run kind of large data organizations and product organizations in the space, when I saw groundcover for the first time, and I just understood how much data we have that's just so unique in our ability to collect it with little friction, and just to be able to think about what we could possibly do for our customers, how we could go and kind of change the status quo in terms of how observability works. That to me is very, very exciting. And I think observability at its core is probably one of the largest data challenges that you could have, because the difference between the data is just so varied. The use cases that our customer needs, their ability to be able to dive in and dig in, and also kind of rethinking this paradigm that's been created in this space, and kind of going and constantly trying to push the envelope, seeing the team that's built over here and seeing what's been able to be achieved in this time. To me, that was the most exciting part, and what kind of pushed me over the edge to make this leap and to be part of this kind of journey that groundcover's on. And, I'm very happy I took that step.
Great to hear. And I think we all love data, right? Like this is one of the core things here. Okay, we have
some questions.
Yeah. All right. So could GC correlate span from eBPF and OTel in the same trace? I'll take that. Oh, wow, we have a lot of questions. So currently we use two different mechanisms to correlate. So one is in distributed tracing. So if you instrument your application, there's a context propagation, trace ID changing, and that's one way. And the other way is time-based. So every span is labeled and tagged with container name, pod name, namespace, all the Kubernetes metadata. So that basically gives you the ability to correlate by time. So you can search by specific headers or things like that, and that will give you some kind of correlation between eBPF and OTel. But it won't be the same as distributed tracing. It is something that we are working on. We do have another. Noam has another crazy idea about how to solve that, but we haven't solved that yet. Great. So Lewis is asking, what are the retention times of traces, logs, and metrics? Do you aggregate metrics based on age to retain more with a lower impact on storage? Noam, I think that one yours.
Cool. So our retention times are completely customizable. Not sure if it wasn't mentioned during this webinar, but it's something worth mentioning again. All the data is stored in your cluster. So, and we use the official third-party charts of ClickHouse and Victoria Metrics. That means that you can customize the retention separately for the logs pillar, for the traces, or for the metrics according to your needs. You can also do like multi-tiering of how the data is being stored. So, for example, you can in ClickHouse store the last 7 days in a fast and expensive storage, and you can then migrate data that is older than 7 days for a cold storage, which is cheaper. Cool. So regarding the aggregation of metrics based on age to return more, okay, cool. So ground cover metrics are not just aggregated; they are, let's say, they are clustered into a very small amount of metrics. And we use labels to help you differentiate between the different states. The reason we do it is because this allows you to, let's say, educate yourself with a much smaller subset of metrics. So, and they will serve all of your needs, which answers your latter question regarding alerting. Our managed Grafana not just offering a dashboard building capabilities, but also alerting capabilities. And you can use all the supported alert contact points by Grafana, which means on top of my head are ServiceNow, PagerDuty, Slack, email, Microsoft Teams, and also just webhook APIs.
I took advantage of you explaining and
Can't hear you so good, Chezi.
I think I understood the context without hearing what Chezi actually said, but I see that Chezi has answered all of the questions via a live answer, or some of them, and it kind of references our docs that we try to keep as updated as possible. Yeah, we hear you now.
Great. So yeah, I just said regarding the log defining filtering log capturing. So I just replied with docs because we definitely support like pretty flexible customization flow of what logs to collect, also for traces. That's really cool. And also I put the docs in the retention. So if you guys want to see how to configure different retention policies, that's also possible. We have another one on the Kubernetes events. Does GC get all events? Could be filtered by object? So yes, we do get all the events from clusters that we installed on, and you can definitely filter by basically everything: namespace, deployment, workload name. We also do a lot of smart analyzing the event itself to give each and every event owner name, which is like human readable owner name. So for instance, if you have an event that was created by a job, which is created by a cron job, we will traverse all this flow and we'll get to the real name, which is the cron job. And yes, you could create alert on those events. As Noam said, all the data is being able, you can query it by using Grafana interface, and the alerts are also work from with the Grafana alert, so you can basically query all this data pretty easily. I think for Kubernetes events, it's like SQL. It's a dream come true to query SQL on your Kubernetes data. I think unless we have more questions. Oh yeah, sorry for asking. That's okay. We love questions. Could you use object storage for GC data? That's a great question. Noam, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so in our traces and logs database ClickHouse, so ClickHouse basically support native object storage interface. So you can, let's say, give him a S3 configuration and it will just work. In Victoria Metrics and in general, our stateful set that holds the data storage use regular storage class. You can use any storage class your Kubernetes cluster provide. So if you have a storage class that is underlined with, let's say, S3 driver or a GCP bucket, it will work completely transparent to the ground cover installation. So definitely.
Right. Yeah, and we also we see it a lot in our customers, usually enterprise customers, when we store 20 or 50 terabytes of logs, and I'm talking about compressed logs. So it's probably around 100 or 200 terabytes of retention logs. We usually do some kind of policy of keeping 24 hours or 48 hours on disks and then store it to S3, because obviously the price per value is not. It's not nice to use EBS for all of that. Okay, cool. So I think no more questions. Everyone is went to install ground cover right now, so we're done.
Absolutely. So I just want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, Noam, Chezi, for your time here, and for all of you who come and join us and kind of set time aside to listen to our journey at ground cover and to see what it is that we do. It kind of all starts and ends with you guys as the customers. So please let us know anything you may need. We always like to say we're customer obsessed, but allow us to prove it in reality. Please feel free to join our Slack group, ask any questions over there, and anything we can help with, just let us know. Hope you have a great experience with ground cover, and have a great night.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
Good night, everybody.